I'm delighted to welcome Stephanie Garner-Winship, Bethel Barris and Sergeant Paul Cruz. It is Sergeant Paul Cruz? It is, yes. So welcome to you all. Stephanie, I think you're going to lead off, yeah? Okay.
Good afternoon, everybody. As Kevin says, we're from the Community Safety Partnerships Unit, which oversees work in the borough coordinating all our responses to a wide range of crime and antisocial behaviour. So that includes the sort of violence against women and girls agenda, gangs, offender management, antisocial behaviour, and we also play a role sort of managing intelligence from different sources such as police, but also within the council. Right, so how many people have heard of Magpie before? Wow, okay, brilliant. So everyone knows and we can go now. Okay, so yeah, Magpies, they're a multi-agency problem-solving panel that deals with antisocial behaviour and crime. So what that means is problems come to us and we look at a range of enforcement, support, diversionary tactics for victims and for perpetrators. Perpetrator sounds like quite a strong word, but yeah, for all those involved. We also look at environmental factors that might make a place more vulnerable to antisocial behaviour or crime. The panel is made up from a sort of a wide range of partners, including outreach services, youth services, housing, other registered social landlords, the police, Park Guard, Green Space, and also, obviously, our own internal ASB and noise service. But another really important partner in Magpie is the voluntary community, the voluntary community and faith group sector. So the panels, we meet every 4 weeks, which means that enables us to be quite responsive to what's going on. And as problems develop, we can kind of adjust what we're doing on a fairly quick basis. Also, a lot of people say that they think it's worthwhile being part of Magpie because it gives them opportunities to network with other partners that can be of use of them, build relationship with those partners and with those organisations. We share information regularly, and also having them that regularly means that we can monitor our progress and make sure that we're on track. So we've got 4 panels and each one covers a different area. Again, this means that each panel kind of has its own makeup, which really helps because it means that the problem solving that we're doing is really relevant to that area rather than kind of being a generic approach to everything that comes up. And certainly everyone who works for Islington, we know it's a really interesting borough with lots of different things going on, a very complex makeup. So the problems are no less complex, and I think the panels kind of represent that quite well. And it also means that the response for residents is better because obviously it's tailored and it draws on existing resources rather than trying to sort of shove generic resources in place when people have already got, say, a community group they're already engaging with and they're already quite happy with. So we try to work with those groups rather than sort of reinventing the wheel, if you like. So yes, and the Magpie, whereas our sort of colleagues maybe in the ASB team or housing, they're really the experts on looking at individual cases such as neighbour disputes or what have you. We're more about the kind of hotspot areas. So if there's a problem with youth disorder in an area, is there an area that's got big problems with begging or street drinking or those kinds of issues? We're there to kind of look at the wider picture and what factors could be kind of what factors are contributing to the problem. Is there a crack house in the area? Where's the noise coming from? What types of thing? Is it a premises? Is it a regular night that happens? Are rubbish collection times causing a problem for residents? Is this because actually somewhere there's some single parents behind the scene who are struggling with their young person that we can give some support to? Is it something as simple as bad lighting? So we try and look at all those different factors. Oops. Yep, and each Magpie has got £10,000, which we can give to groups, so anybody can apply for funding for a project that supports the work of the panel. So it has to be something relevant to what we're doing, but the idea is that it gives people the opportunity to explore sort of innovative ways of working with small bits of budget. People can try a pilot, for example, which for a couple of months, but if it works well, then it might encourage other people to fund that. And yeah, that's another thing that gets partners involved that might not necessarily have come on board in the first place. So, Magpie neighbourhood officers. So, yep, as per the last slide, there's 4 Magpie officers, 1 for each area, and we attend a number of different local forums and meetings. So, residents' meetings such as tenants and residents associations. Each ward has its own Safer Neighbourhood ward panel that's run by the police. There's an outreach forum that looks specifically at street population issues, like I was referring to earlier about people who are sex working or who are sleeping rough, or have got substance misuse issues. Police liaison meetings where housing and police meet together to talk about those specific cases that I was talking about earlier, where it's a more specific issue. And also the police hold regular tasking meetings every 2 weeks where they look at the whole crime picture for the whole borough. And again, we feed into that process to sort of say what's going on from an antisocial behaviour perspective and from all the other agencies that we work with and represent. So I think this element is really important, and increasingly so as resources are becoming more scarce, because we can kind of help to get residents to feel like they're really cared for, explain what is a really often quite a complex process. As we saw in the video earlier, we're trying to simplify that, make it less daunting, make it more accessible to people. And again, yeah, it's about providing a holistic response. So it's looking at the whole situation for that person who's suffering from antisocial behaviour or has been a victim of crime. But it's also about managing the expectations of residents, I think. So, for example, one of the things that we will do quite regularly when a problem comes to the Magpie is we'll organise a site visit. So we'll go to where the problem is, we'll invite the resident along, and we'll invite partners who are going to help us to tackle that problem. And this is actually sort of an extremely powerful tool, because straight away the resident is in the driving seat. They're telling you what the problem is. It's a real show of force all turning up. It really shows, we do care about this problem. It's complex, so here we all are to try and listen to what you've got to say. But it also gives them the opportunity to hear a bit about how we work, what the limitations are, what resources have we got to work with, what can we do together to solve this problem. And we pretty much always get very positive feedback from that, and it gives them buy-in from the start. It's also about giving residents the power to know how to get the best out of us as well, because by explaining what it is that we do and how we do it, we can also explain how to make sure that they're getting what they ought to get, what they're entitled to. So, for example, one of the issues that we work very hard on is trying to make sure that residents know how to report antisocial behaviour and that they're empowered to do so, because actually it can be very intimidating. You don't really know what response you're going to receive on the other end of the phone, what's going to happen next. So a lot of the work that the Magpie officers do is about trying to get people to understand how to do it, what to expect, complain if they don't get what they need. And this, for us, means that, again, we can respond more effectively, because hopefully it means that we get a better quality of report, a better quality of information. And intelligence and information is key to what we do as a community safety partnerships unit. And it also means that we can give some sectors of society who are perhaps a bit more marginalised, we can give them a voice too. So, for example, I know we've got people who may be homeless, who might have substance misuse issues, or for whatever reason, they've never really been in touch with the police, or they don't see the police or the council as someone that they could approach naturally. So we work with different community organisations and voluntary sector so that we can provide a voice for them. They don't have to come directly to us, but it doesn't mean that they should put up with being a victim of antisocial behaviour or crime. So that's another element of the work that we do. So yeah, as you've gathered, we make links between all the different strands of work relating to crime and antisocial behaviour. And yeah, this results obviously in time saving for officers, because we're able to represent lots of different organisations. It avoids duplication. We're making better use of resources because we're sharing what's there in the first place. The only extra bit is those tiny pots of funding that we've got for these extra projects, extra bits of work. And it also means, I think it's very important in the context of giving confidence to people about how we're responding to crime and antisocial behaviour. It also shows a united front. So, for example, we can also identify where there might be problems with partners we're working with, if we're working with counterproductively. For example, there may be colleagues in probation who are working very hard to keep somebody housed as part of their rehabilitation society. Meanwhile, they don't realise that they're causing antisocial behaviour, so housing are trying to work to take tenancy action against them. So again, it's sort of trying to help identify where actually we need to be talking about it. Sorry, so the Magpie officers, we can be your first point of contact if you're not sure who to speak to about a problem with crime or antisocial behaviour. We haven't got specialist knowledge, but we do know a very wide range of partners, statutory and voluntary and in the community sector, so you can always approach one of us if you have got any questions about it. I'm now going to hand you over to my colleagues Betel Barris and Sergeant Paul Cruz to go through a case study that hopefully brings this all to life a bit better.
Morning, I'm Paul Cruz, I'm the sergeant. I'm actually on Finsbury Park Safer Neighbourhood team. The operation we're going to talk to you about today actually took place on Highbury West Safer Neighbourhood, but the sergeant from there was unavailable today, quite conveniently. So it fell to me to do the presentation on his behalf. There's 4 bullet points on this slide. I'm just going to put them all up rather than going through them one by one, because my presentation runs in a slightly different order, and also I'll probably forget to press the button. The operation we're going to talk to you about took place in Blackstock Road. Blackstock Road, for those of you who don't know, is in the Highbury area and runs from Finsbury Park at the north end to almost down to Highbury Corner in the south. It incorporates a small one-way loop at the top of the road at the Finsbury Park end, which leads back onto Seven Sisters. One side of the road is in Islington Borough and the other side is in Hackney Borough, which historically has caused quite a few problems because it's being policed by 2 different teams and you're dealing with 2 different local authorities. There was a large Algerian community using the area. They used to come to visit the area. They didn't live there. They used to come to Blackstock Road to trade, to use cafes, to use the shops there. And this actually led to the area being known as Little Algeria. The streets at one time were lined with hordes of Algerian men just standing around in the street, smoking, chatting, drinking coffee, and basically waiting for thieves to come along and sell stolen goods to them. This led to pavements being blocked, women being harassed and intimidated as they were walking down the street, a massive littering problem in the street, and just general antisocial behaviour. Historically, it's been well documented on police intelligence systems that the area is well known by the criminal fraternity for a place to go to sell your stolen goods. Police systems show that a large number of mobile phones stolen not just in Islington and not just in London but throughout the country can be traced back to Blackstock Road. And there was a criminal network operating there using the cafes and commercial premises to actually export stolen mobile phones back to Algeria. So for them it was quite a big business for a very long time. Analysis of property recovered by police from people arrested in Blackstock Road between April 2011 and November 2011, there were 49 mobile phones, 22 laptops, 17 cameras, 17 SD cards, 6 sat-navs and 5 media players. And out of all those properties, 77 of those items, which is most items, were directly linked to a criminal offence, and the owners were identified. And the value of that property was £30,950. They came for a variety of crimes: theft, pickpockets, burglary, theft from motor vehicles, robbery, snatch and shoplifting. And those crimes took place not just in London, as I said, but all over the UK. Individuals involved in the crime were predominantly Algerian or French background with questionable immigration status. And when arrested, most of them have false ID documents. Most of them have false French ID documents, although they're actually Algerian, which makes it even more difficult for the investigation teams. And those problems caused us to have massive problems just with basically identifying the person before we could go any further. And then another issue was the sometimes lenient sentences they're given at court. And despite numerous police operations, the scale of criminality in the location for a very long time remained undefined. And I'm now going to hand you over to Betel to explain what was actually done about it.
Yes, what did we do to solve this complex and long-standing problem? Inevitably, we had to work in partnership, and we established an effective multi-agency working with a range of partners, including police, different council services, private electricity gas companies, community organizations, community leaders, cross-borough services, and police teams. Police enforcement intelligence work on organized crime led by Highbury West Safer Neighbourhood Team, including covert surveillance, stop and search operations. And they gather intelligence in order to execute warrants on suspect business addresses in Blackstock Road. As a result of this work, closure orders for some premises has been put in place. There were 2 convictions of conspiracy to handle stolen goods, and 2 people received totaling 4 years in prison. We work with Arab Advice Bureau. They were one of the important partners. They provided outreach sessions to the businesses and their customers. They were being a mediator between statutory organizations and Blackstock Road community. They also had an important role to inform the community about the UK criminal justice system. We also work with Finsbury Park Mosque and Muslim Welfare House. They contributed to the partnership work by giving information and advice to people after their Friday prayer. We work with the community leaders to be able to achieve more effective communication and better experience for the community, as they were the expert and they had the necessary skills to communicate with the community. We work with the Street Environment Services. They provided educational sessions for the community about littering. They gave out portable ashtrays, waste management contracts made. They delivered enforcement when necessary. We did some cross-borough partnership working with Hackney Police and Hackney Community Safety Partnership. As Paul said, one of the sides of Blackstock Road is Hackney. We had regular meetings with Hackney Community Safety Partnership units and police. Also, Highbury West Safer Neighbourhood Team developed a partnership work with Westminster Police to assist in identifying and arresting their subjects that they are currently wanted on warrant. Sorry. I made a little mistake. Yes, Operation Edison, conducted by the police recently with partnership with a range of different Islington and Hackney Council services. I'm going to put everything on actually rather than stressing about it. Yeah. A cafe. This was one of the cafes that we were going to get closure order under the Antisocial Behaviour Act. So this operation kind of saved time and money for us. We didn't have to go through the closure order under Antisocial Behaviour Act. And also during this operation, trading standards found a large quantity of stock where duty hadn't been paid. And police found over 10,000 in cash in the safe that couldn't be accounted for in one shop. Both shopkeepers were arrested and the shop was closed. During this operation, it was also found out that some businesses changed the use of the premises without obtaining necessary planning permission. There are still some ongoing cases. So what did we achieve? Loitering on the payment dramatically decreased, and we don't get continuous resident complaints anymore about gathering on the pavement in Blackstock Road. Public perception improved. A recent survey shows that 95% of people felt much safer in comparison to 12 months ago. 3 cafes were closed down. One of the cafe owners, 2 brothers, are still in the prison. There were 73 arrests over the last 2 years, and 2 convictions, as I said, with total 4 years imprisonment. And intelligence suggests that main handlers no longer operates from Blackstock Road. That's it. Thank you very much.